2020 Friday continues. Once again, Barbara Walters.
Millions of little girls have dreamed of walking in Judy Garland's shoes. You know, those ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz that made all wishes come true. Judy Garland was one of the greatest talents of all time, but her own wishes didn't come true. Her own life was dramatically and disturbingly different. Tonight, the story she never got to tell before she died, including spellbinding audio tapes that she made and the autobiography she never finished. They capture some of Judy Garland's darkest days. Joel Siegel has the untold story of this legend.
Being Judy Garland is quite a chore.
This is a Judy Garland you've never heard before.
I want my money. I want it right now.
A Judy Garland no one has ever heard before. She recorded these tapes to help write an autobiography she'd never finish.
Every silver was ever stolen from me. I've got to get it up.
These weren't delusions. She was broke when she recorded this, and not movie star down to my last Rolls Royce broke, homeless broke. No money to buy food broke.
That's why I'm supposed to be a legend, Judy Garland. All right, then read about it. Read the truth, though. And believe me, the way you believed me when I sang all the songs. Well, now I'm talking, and listen to me, for goodness sake.
Daughter Lorna Luft was one of the few who did listen, but she was too young to be able to do much about it. I'm quoting from Lorna's book, Me and My Shadows. I wasn't much more than 12, but it was up to me to take care of Mama and Joey. We'd start running out of food and money regularly.
My life was sort of like this beautiful, beautiful ball of yarn that started to unravel, and nobody knew what to do.
The Wizard of Oz made Judy Garland a legend. This is why she's still a star more than 30 years after her death. She died overdosed in a cheap London flat. She was 47 years old. What's unique about this telling of the Judy Garland legend is that much of it's told in her own voice, from the tapes she recorded. And researching his new Judy Garland biography, Get Happy, author Gerald Clark discovered this manuscript of a Judy Garland autobiography no one had seen before, buried in an archive at Columbia University.
It was like opening King Tut's tomb. The excitement I felt. It's wonderful. It's in her own words, sometimes funny stories, sometimes tragic.
The tragedy started early, even before Frances Ethel Gum was born. Her parents were vaudevillians. Her father ran a theater in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Her mother didn't want a third child and tried to abort her. Her father had a wayward eye for young men.
He was told, in a polite way, I think, that they had to leave town.
The family moved west to Lancaster, California. Her mother drove her, sometimes dragged her to every studio in nearby L.A. In a 1967 interview with Barbara Walters, not even this great actress could disguise the anger she still felt toward her mother.
Did you have a stage mother, as we have heard about the stage mothers?
One that wouldn't quit. A mean one. She was very jealous because she had absolutely no talent. She would sort of stand in the wings when I was a little girl, and if I didn't feel good, if I was sick to my tummy, she'd say, "You get out and sing, or I'll wrap you around the bedpost and break you off short." So I'd go out and sing.
Something she didn't tell Barbara. Gerald Clark learned from a childhood friend that young Judy always suspected her mother traded sex for favors with producers and studio execs. September 1935, Judy signed with MGM, the biggest, richest, most star-studded studio in Hollywood. Judy was everybody's favorite girl next door. But the studio's other starlets had an almost patented long-legged MGM look.
She didn't fit into the mold. So now imagine being told that out loud when you're 13, 12 years old.
Which is a terrible age to be anyway.
Absolutely. And you're told you look funny, this, you're a hunchback, your nose isn't right, this, that. What's that going to do to your confidence?
Louis B. Mayer, who was just a bit more uncompromising in the way he ran MGM than Mussolini was in the way he ran Italy, did call Judy my little hunchback.
Dear Mr. Gable.
This was the song that made Judy Garland a star.
Judy Garland will become an overnight sensation.
The price? She'd work non-stop. Today, a star makes one film a year. In her 10-year career at MGM, Judy made 10 films with co-star Mickey Rooney alone.
There is a new star in the heavens.
That's how the studio system worked. When she made The Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland was paid $500 a week. The only named player paid less, the Cairn Terrier who played Toto. He got $125, and he didn't have to fend off Mr. Mayor. Judy Garland's own words.
He'd say, "This girl is great, and the reason is that she sings from the heart." And with that, he'd always find my left breast with his hand. I often thought I was lucky that I didn't sing with another part of my anatomy.
And though part of the Garland myth is that it was the studio that started her on pep pills and diet pills and sleeping pills to come down, Clark learned she'd started on pills long before she started at the studio.
Her mother was the one who really got her hooked on drugs at the age of, about 8 or 9. Amphetamines first to get her up, going. And then barbiturates when she was up and going and had to sleep at night to be on stage the next day. Her mother looked upon her, I'm sorry to say, really, as a meal ticket.
What do you do when you love somebody so much they don't even know you're around?
In her first films, Judy never got the guy. MGM knew an on-screen romance would be bad for her image. Off-screen, she'd have romances with Tyrone Power, Orson Welles, Frank Sinatra. And at 20, married composer David Rose. Troubled from the start, the marriage was doomed when Judy got pregnant. She wanted a baby, but a pregnancy would have cost MGM millions. The studio convinced her husband and, of course, her mom. Though written in the third person, these are Judy Garland's words.
"Where are we going?" "Never mind," said Mother, "you'll see." They drove for about a half hour and pulled up in front of a dreary little establishment outside of town. Her mother took Judy by the hand, led her inside to a shabby little office. In a few minutes, David, her mother, and MGM were satisfied.
Off-screen, the pills got Judy through the depression and the nonstop workload. At least 4 doctors were writing prescriptions. But on-screen, the drugs didn't show. Yet. And Judy Garland became MGM's biggest star.
Clang, clang, clang went the trolley.
She fell in love with director Vincent Minnelli on the set of Meet Me in St. Louis. This time, MGM said yes to a baby. She was pregnant in this scene from Till the Clouds Roll By. Little Liza would happen in 1946. But the studio demanded her back to work too soon. Her weight fluctuated wildly, and the almost constant drug abuse started to show, first off-screen, then on.
So, how do you lose weight? You take amphetamines, if you want to do it quickly. So that's what Judy did. And so right away, she was on the same treadmill of drugs, getting up late, coming in late to work. And it turned into a nightmare for everybody concerned.
Doing what comes naturally.
That's Judy Garland in Outtakes, scenes from Annie Get Your Gun, which was supposed to star Judy Garland. Betty Hutton got the part after Judy was fired. Her weight dropped precipitously, her hair was falling out. The studio recommended a doctor who actually gave her shock treatments.
We have choices today. We know that there is help out there. We know that there is education out there. We know that there's so much about the knowledge of, drug dependency and all that. They had AA, but women didn't go to AA, and legends really didn't.
When she made The Pirate, she'd show up late, show up drugged, lock herself in her dressing room, pass out on the soundstage. On her way to work, she'd stop at Gene Kelly's house, ask to use the bathroom, and rifle through the medicine cabinet looking for drugs.
Her new husband, Sid Luft, took her as far away from Hollywood as possible. She went to London, was a smash at the Palladium, came here to Broadway, played the Palace, set records, and made history. She sold out the Palace for 19 straight weeks. At her final performance, the entire audience sang along with every song. She'd become a bigger star than ever.
These are home movies, some never seen before, of Judy Garland's greatest triumph, 1961, Judy Garland at Carnegie Hall. The film was shot silent. We synchronized the picture to the newly reissued compact classic CD. It's still magic. But a few years later, all Judy wanted to know was, what happened to the money?
Lots of people got rich off of me. My children didn't get rich. I didn't get rich.
The man who'd managed Judy's money and career in a phrase robbed her blind. David Begelman, who would later face 4 counts of felony grand theft in connection with another client, brokered her CBS TV show, promised her she'd make so much money she'd never have to work again. The show, newly remastered for DVD, was terrific and historic. 3 divas. Judy and young Liza.
Wherever we go, whatever we do, we're gonna go through it together.
Judy and even younger, Joey and Lorna Love.
Come on in.
Gee, that was really our living room.
Where were
How
you?
skinny my little legs were.
Oh.
Consider yourself at home.
Clark writes when an independent audit showed Begelman had stolen $200,000 from her, Judy said, "Sweep it under the rug. I'm going to make $20 million from this show." She never made a nickel. When the producers of the Jack Parr show gave her a car as a thank you, Begelman kept the car for himself. Judy had to buy her own car, and she couldn't afford it. There were times she couldn't afford food. When you would run out of food, and you were a 12-year-old kid, what would you do?
You do whatever you can to help. And it was frightening because at this point in my life, Mama was sick, and it was devastating because I didn't know what to do.
Judy Garland, barely into her 40s, looked 20 years older. She'd marry a 4th time, Mark Herron. Tour Australia the 1st time. Interviews in Sydney went beautifully. These have never been broadcast on American TV.
You work so hard that you become ill sometimes. You have been ill in the past.
Oh, no, I haven't been ill for 108 years.
Then the pills kicked in. She OD'd just before her Melbourne concert. Groggy, late, incoherent, the crowd rioted. And 1 year later, one more new low. Judy Garland was singing at a New York City gay bar called 3. Her salary, $100 a night. But now Judy Garland's on the road again, in an electronic duet with her daughter, in Lorna's stage show, Songs My Mother Taught Me.
It's interesting. I've spoken to Natalie Cole about it, and it takes you a long time. It takes you a long time to become not only comfortable, but to become at peace with the ghost, to become friends with the ghost, to embrace what she left me.
The end of her life. You can read about it, it's just unimaginable.
Yeah. And I loved her. And so...
Is there one image of your mother that you really want to carry with you?
I think if there was one image, it would be of her laughing, because she had a great laugh. And that's an image that I always hold in my head about her.
Joel Siegel is with us here. Now, Joel, that was so revealing, but to me, not terribly surprising. I remember seeing her at the Palace, and she was so wonderful, and I remember our interview.
I never saw her perform, never got to meet her. What was she like? What was that interview like?
First of all, she kept me waiting more than 4 hours, and I almost walked out. But, you know, it was Judy Garland. And then when she came out, when Lorna talked about how funny she was adorable, and I remember the laughter. She wore Lorna's dress. She didn't have a dress of her own, and she was very tiny, and I think Lorna must have been about 14. And I remember she was worried about paying for the hotel suite because she was performing. Someone else was paying for it. What would she do when they no longer were? It is so clear to me, and you brought it all back.
Those ads, what becomes a legend most, do you remember those?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what does, but it's got to be a better life than the life she had.
But her fame will live on in every film. But what a, as you said, what a sad life, what a sad death. Thank you, Joe.